questions, but I have some questions that I'd like to ask the panelists first. And I think Jennifer touched on something really important. She said, when she was talking about her work at CBC Kids, she said that we have the opportunity to dream up our own thing, and it doesn't have to be led by TV. And I think that's really important as we move AR forward into the future, that we ask the question, what is distinct about AR? How is it like no other medium before it? So I guess my question to the panelists is, what would you say some of the distinct criteria or characteristics of augmented reality are, and how have you used them in your work, or how would you like to integrate them into your work in the future? Jump in.
Well, it's interesting. As we start working on any particular AR project, one of the questions that we ask ourselves and force ourselves to ask ourselves is, how am I able to experience this in a way that I can't do in any other way other than augmented reality? And sometimes we achieve that, and sometimes we don't. We fail quite a bit. But when we do achieve that, then it becomes something magical. We've got a thing we're working on right now where we're literally turning an entire hotel chain, but individual hotels, into an augmented reality game experience, and the content is pretty cool. And the gameplay and the flow is pretty cool. And what's going to basically dictate whether it's a winner or not is how well we integrate that into the physical building itself. If we do it well, and if it works well, then it will be that magical AR experience that is different than any other thing that you could experience in any other way. If we do it poorly, it'll just feel like 3D elements and a 3D game that's kind of laid on top of the building. So.
Hello. Oh no, it is okay. Well, I would say something that is really exciting for us to see is the ability to watch a child learn while they're playing. And so that's something that we've always done. But it's different when you can say that in that particular example, for instance, kids actually have to do something before they get their next hit of something delightful and fun. And I think that kids are natural learners. They're interested in learning. So it's a nice place to really begin to educate and entertain at sort of an equal balance. That's kind of an exciting thing for us.
I could say for Ghostbusters, we added the location-based aspect, which is not something we added in Pandemica. And that's something we've thought that we could evolve in terms of marketing and contests around catching ghosts at certain locations or major landmarks around the world. So I think that's something, I guess it's the coolness factor of catching ghosts at, say, the CN Tower or anywhere else, Big Ben in London or places like that.
Vuzix is a hardware developer. We design and build the gizmos that help deliver the experiences. At Hitachi's, the World's Fair in 2005, Hitachi, we built for them these electronic binoculars. And it was amazing to see how people experienced this ride, screaming, reaching out, giggling. I mean, this was something they've never done before, and it completely changed a perspective of their life. And there were two parts. The guys who developed the content, and then the way the user could actually interact with it in the end. And for Vuzix, we spend an awful lot of time on the how do you interact with it piece. We have over 5,000 developers that are using our products today, and it never ceases to amaze me the amount of creativity that's going into this whole concept of AR and augmenting the world around you.
Another question I have is, I mentioned unicorns earlier, so I want to know, and there was a great question this morning about if you could double or triple your budgets, what would you create? And so I'd like to know, what is, metaphorically speaking, your AR unicorn? I know we talked about some limitations, we talked about battery life, but what is your AR unicorn? What do you want to see? What is your absolute dream vision for AR?
now or the long term? 'Cause the right.
Let's talk long term, yeah.
Because the right now is really simple.
Dream big, dream big.
You know, I mean, to the ultimate unicorn for us is to not be limited by any kind of image recognition. And I know we talked about Deco today. We played with it quite a bit, and it's a good step. And it's not quite where we need to be yet, but that true edge detection, that true ability to be able to place our content anywhere in our physical environment, that for us is the true unicorn, I guess, which we don't have yet. And when is it coming? I don't know. It's getting closer and closer, I would suspect. The right now is more.
Yeah, that's a really tough question, but I guess I would say it would be nice to be able to have people feel that they are actually doing something, and like as if you really are about to touch something and change something. The ability to create something that kids could really, if we stay in the kids sort of model, if that they were able to do something that they couldn't do because either they are too young and often aren't given that opportunity to do something that would be considered something they should do when they're older. Just to be able to play and feel that it's about as real as it could be, I suppose.
We talked a little bit in my presentation was, I guess our unicorn would be like the Second Life type of world. I guess the first step is that have markerless based AR, which we're seeing right now, and then moving on to better facial recognition, object recognition, and of course we're going to need obviously faster processors and much better battery life.
Well, Vuzix has a pretty focused vision of the future, and our unicorn, that's what you want to call it, our goals for the future are that the experiences that people will get through our glasses are as good, if not better, than any science fiction book that was ever written on what it would be like. And it gets that compelling, and instead of your phone, the bulk of the people on the planet are using smart glasses to walk around with and experience the world. It's a big reach, and there's a lot of technology that has to come, but it's getting there.
Okay, so I'd like to open it to the floor, and I also just want to mention, so this afternoon, again, you'll hear from me, and I'll be talking about where I think AR is going and my personal AR unicorn, but I want to open it up to each one of you and ask you, where do you want AR to be in the next 5 to 10 years? So if you could tweet that to me, that would be wonderful, and I'd love to include that in my presentation this afternoon. So you can tweet that to AR Stories and hashtag it AR Future. Before 3:30 p.m., please. Okay, so questions for our esteemed panelists, please. Yes.
The Vuzix, since you guys have been around for a long time, have you found the going from 1991 to today? What is your usage rate been of your glasses over the time period?
The concept of using them in gaming was really where the big start was for Vuzix. And I mean, the number of people back in 1992 or 93 that really wanted this concept to work was unbelievable. It was on the front cover of almost every magazine. And, without doubt, there was a big rush. And then, through the 90s, it's one of those technologies, labeled virtual reality, head-mounted displays, bolts, and cranes. So it would phase in and out of the mass market sort of space. But there's always been little niche markets where the technology has found some place to survive. It literally has been like that, where it's, small revenues, little niche markets, a lot of focus on the defense side. In 2004, maybe the displays finally started coming out, the micro displays that could give you full color in a small enough package at a price point that could start to approach the consumer marketplace. And there was a beginning surge of people wanting to plug in their phone to a mobile display device and do gaming again. But the real push today is people want HD, they want cool form factors and the like. And so that is now driving from here are the 5 customers for all the software that you guys are putting out there. So the push is to actually get over that curve, get into the porcupines off your back part of the growth curve in the marketplace so that they're accepted and they're available in mass markets.
We've talked a lot about sort of augmented reality. What about reality distortion, or the less benign, I guess, uses over AR? And I'm thinking about the capacity to distort political opinion, the capacity to create, I think, more sort of nefarious applications, more whatever. Do you guys have a gut feel for the dangers of it as well? Is there sort of will AR literacy be an issue in the future? Are there ways in which content developers can anticipate or responsibly, I guess, create content for AR? Is there, I don't know. So, I mean, I think the context, in as much as AR can be a benign technology, can also be a less benign.
Can you repeat the question?
I'd like to repeat the question. What would the heart of your question be? I know there were a lot of questions in there. What do you want? What do you really want to hear from the panelists?
Well, I don't know what I really want. But I mean, there is this, I think there's in as much as we could, that side of the AR, I don't think that's discussed in the curriculum. So the potential, for example, to distort political opinion or to create, I think, yeah, just distorted views of the world that are, it's potential for less benign.
Okay, so what's the darker side of AR? Is that yes?
Yeah, what's the darker side?
What's the darker? Sure, why not? Right. What's the darker side of AR? Criminal activity we heard this morning. Defense industry, political. Some big questions here. What do you think, panelists?
I mean, don't feel qualified to answer that question. But I mean, I would suggest that when the printing press was invented, there was a whole lot of people that were sitting back saying, what are the dark sides of that? And so, yeah, I'm not going to answer that question.
I think it's a lot like many medias. They can be abused, and they are abused, and if there's ways to make money out of them, people will do it even if they aren't nefarious. So, I mean, it just seems to me as though it's the responsibility of the industry to sort of police itself. And if you look at politics on the news today, each side convincing the other side, even with outright lies at times. So, I think that, it's going to happen.
I do have another unicorn, though.
Pardon me?
I do have another unicorn, a request.
Okay, let's hear it.
There's just something else I was thinking about. It was the mass population in our world starts to understand and expect more content from the physical world around us, physical objects in the world around us, and I can't wait to get there because I think once we are there, that will drive the hardware, and the software, as well as the thinking even faster. So that would be another. I have a wish list. That's not solved by money in my company, but that's certainly a wish list.
Actually, if I may also comment, thinking of the darker side of the AR, you mentioned to me about AR literacy, and really early on, I think it was 2005, I gave a talk, and my talk was interrupted, and the comment still stays with me, and I think it was really important. And I was talking about a project in Pompeii called Life Plus, and it was a cultural heritage recreation project with dramatic characters and acting, rather than it being more information-based. It was entertainment. And it recreated scenes from daily life in Pompeii, and it recreated the physical location of Pompeii. And so I had somebody ask me, and I said, and I was at the time showing some slides of how people in space would have to wear a backpack with head-mounted display or eyewear. And this person said, well, what if I don't want to wear the eyewear? What if I want to imagine for myself what the space looked like without the AR? So, you know, for me, that really stayed with me, and I asked myself too, will AR come to supplant the human imagination, right? And I don't have an answer for you. I would like to think that it's a way of enhancing content and storytelling, but it is a question that I also ask. Yes?
Thanks. Question about the goggles, right? So it's kind of hard to get one person to wear them and walk around and maybe feel socially awkward. But are there any, like, a theater setting would be amazing for this stuff? And are there any great, I'm not as up to speed with AR as you guys are, but are there any amazing group experiences where it's perfectly natural and normal when you walk into a theater to be handed some 3D glasses, right? With whatever form factor, it doesn't matter, you're sitting in the dark. What are, like, have you seen any cool possibilities around in theater, like a massive multiplayer game or feedback systems or something like that?
So the Hitachi event was one example of that. It was $100 million pavilion that they built that 8,000 people a day went through. They all came, you waited in line, end of the day, hopefully you got to ride, and you know, it's like going to Disney World. A group of people, 16 at a time, would get on this sort of train, and the train would go through different dioramas, and you could reach out and experience the world as you were doing that, and it was a very amazing and compelling experience. There are companies that are, you know, have reached out with music that are using our tools and that are looking at the idea of a virtual / augmented theater. Watching a movie, but you're also experiencing some things that happen around the movie. I don't know of any installations that are like that today, though.
Yeah, thanks.
I know there was someone with the orange shirt. Did you have a question? Do you still have a question?
Well, I just wanted to know, your new device is released next year. How much is it going to cost?
So we have industrial versions of these guys that are in the $2,500 to $5,000 price point range. They're designed to get wet, use in the rain, and beat up. We have a consumer line of products today that are the conventional video eyewear style devices, bulkier and the likes. They're great products. People have a lot of fun with them. They do 3D. We'll have a full HDMI 1.4 compliant version shortly. And those range from $249 to $599 if you're getting them with sensors for gaming and the likes. These glasses, when they come out with the processors, they'll come in several different flavors and capabilities, some smarter than the others, and they will be price point for consumer use. Imagine like a cell phone kind of a device, smartphone.
I think we probably have time for one more question. Kevin, how are we doing for time? Yeah, one more question.
I just have a quick comment on the nefarious. I was thinking too, just in terms of what's really easy to do today, and just walking around, that so many of you have things that could be like instant trackables that you could augment people against their will. And I was thinking that'd be a really interesting art project, like so many people are wearing patterns or jewelry that you can instantly take and have private augmented scenes that really take advantage of other people's personal spaces, which could be either cool or nefarious.
All right, so that's our lab director talking about taking advantage of of people's specific context, I guess, which leaves me, I think I'd like to close on that, on context, and that's something I'll be speaking about this afternoon. For me, one of the distinct characteristics of augmented reality is, in fact, context. And I guess I want to hear from each one of the panelists, briefly, how you see context, both location and context specific to the end user or the person engaging in the experience, what you see the importance of context being in creating AR experiences, and perhaps how, maybe if you want to speak specifically to each one of your projects. I'd love to hear from you.
When you say context, you just mean like the setting that.
Sure, it could be setting or what's unique to that experience at that time. So yeah, definitely setting, site, as well as the unique criteria that need to play out when the experience is happening.
Well, it's interesting because there's been a few points that were brought up about, you know, that you started on about, you know, what if we create the space that people are to imagine all the time. And one of the things when we were talking about creating an Olympic space for kids. We thought, well, maybe if we're going to do some webcasting, we can allow some UGC to occur. And one of our developers thought, well, you know what, kids could actually draw, and they could, you know, rather than the way we would watch a sportcaster on TV say, oh, did you see this play, and you circle this, and they talk about it. Why not allow the kids to do that? So the whole idea of that nefarious kind of, or, you know, issues that could arise, well, you can imagine that when you do that, you know, there could be somebody there. It's hard for a broadcaster who's very concerned about children's safety to think about doing that kind of thing, but at the same time, if we don't allow them to be a part of it, then we're not really allowing for users to help create the content. So, so I think it's very important, and there's a lot of questions up in the air still about that sort of thing.
So I think it's context and opportunity are two things that come to mind for me. And there's a project that we're going to be launching in January of this year, and basically it takes advantage of the fact that people are sitting in a stadium and they're able to they're waiting for the event to start, and they're able to interact with the ticket that they have in their hands. So that's kind of the opportunity. And you have to have that time and the opportunity to sit back and have that AR experience. But then that's the same app when you view the surface, the ice surface, you will then have a shared experience amongst all the 30,000 people that are at the stadium. And so it's important to make sure that what you experience on that ice surface actually is kind of integrated with the physical stadium itself. Otherwise, it's just video laid on top of an ice surface, or 3D laid on top of an ice surface. It has to actually transform in front of you, and if you can do that properly, all of a sudden you have this shared magical experience, which is cool. So
Just for us, I think the location-based aspect and for Ghostbusters adds, you know, context to the game. So, you know, for example, you could go to, you know, landmarks in New York City where they had an actual ghost, like 55 Central Park West. You know, you could catch ghosts there, much like they did in the movie. So I think that adds a lot to the experience.
You know, for Music's we're a delivery system, so whether it's the bedroom or the ice hockey rink, the context for us is they just gotta look cool. You gotta get comfortable with the delivery system that we're, you know, building for people. Beyond that, I hope there's more and more venues, contexts, and we would far be it from us to limit the thinking of where that might be or how it could be done.
All right, I like that. We're ending on not limiting thinking. So just in time for lunch. Thank you so much to each of the panelists, and we look forward to this afternoon and all the conversations that will continue. Thank you very much.